The Evening Brothers are proud to present Twinkie Talk.
Did we all actually hit record?
I hit record.
Okay, I did too. There was a moment of fear there that I was like, "Oh wait,
like a fucking hero."
Thank you,
Come
John.
on, we've done 11 of these, 10 of these, 2 of them.
I couldn't even begin to
Got
tell
some-
you.
some
this
number.
recording thing dialed
Some number. Why do you think we're qualified to know
Yeah.
these kind of things, Preston?
We're professionals.
because you guys are the ones actually like putting effort into this and like doing all the work.
Finally, we have it recorded. He finally said it.
Oh, I'll say it. I've definitely said it before, and I'll say it again. You guys are doing all the work. I'm just a filthy freeloader over here.
That's what we've always said about you.
Yep,
That's what we say behind your back after we do our secret second podcast.
that
It's
checks
called
out.
Preston is a filthy freeloader.
I stand
Biz.
by that.
Are we doing an episode of a
No,
podcast?
Don't, John. Don't say anything.
Oh, okay.
Let's just wait.
Sorry, we're
Oh,
not
that's right.
doing an
This is-
episode of a
this is,
podcast.
This is my movie, isn't it? Well, welcome
No.
back to the Twinkie Talk podcast presented by the Evening Brothers. I am Brother Preston.
I am Brother Lincoln, and I would like to point out that Preston, you have done this intro literally exactly the same number of times. All of us have also done this intro. That's it.
I'm Brother John. That's all I got. I don't know. I'm just here.
Thank you,
I'm
John,
just
for doing
thriving.
it correctly.
Yeah.
Lincoln, that's not at all how this intro works, but that's all right.
Actually,
I'm sorry. You should know.
I do have a note. I'm Brother John, and Lincoln. I think that was pretty critical of you, so I don't know if I would have done that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been so critical.
Yeah.
It's just every time Preston does an intro, he acts like it's the first time he's ever done
He
it.
acts like it's the first time he realized we were recording a podcast.
And every time I fall for it because I go, oh wait, he doesn't do this as often. And then I thought, wait, he does this exactly as often.
It's not true at all.
yeah. See, Link, I'm just baiting you every single time, and it's hilarious.
Oh well, good to know.
It's just another opportunity for me and John just to rip into you.
It's another opportunity for comedy. That's what I always say when I wake up.
Yeah, I love getting baited and I love getting ripped.
Yeah.
So let's start.
Well, yeah.
Let's
Now
start
that,
this
now that we've
podcast.
established that, this is a podcast where we punish each other by watching terrible movies and then talk about them. It's a very original idea. This is the only podcast that ever does this.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, it is.
The movie that we watched for this episode is After Earth, starring Will and
Boy.
Jaden Smith.
It
And
certainly
oh
is.
boy, is it a punishment and a half,
Whew.
maybe even 2.
It is bad in ways that I have never experienced before.
It's heinous. Like, I thought it
Yeah,
was
it's-
bad last time, and now this is the second time that I've forced myself to watch this movie, and it got even worse.
I want to dig into something real quick because last week Lincoln was very I would say giddy is the correct word that we've chosen. That Preston, you chose this movie. Lincoln, how you feeling? How you doing?
I'm feeling kind of from the very beginning. When I clicked on the movie and like hadn't really clicked play yet, in my mind was still like an Oblivion type movie.
Yeah, so
Where it was
like
gonna-
a good movie,
Like
that's
something
pretty
that was
decent.
entertaining.
Well, yeah. Well, from what 13 or 14-year-old me remembers in the trailers, I expected there was going to be some amount of like cool visuals, some amount of actually cool production design, and it was going to have some flawed writing, and that's what we were going to spend our time talking about. And then we started watching the movie, and there's not really cool visuals, and there's not really production design, and so it doesn't feel. In my mind was this kind of underappreciated sci-fi movie that maybe we could hit on some of the interesting or compelling aspects of it, and we did not.
I can't believe I'm saying this because it has a 1.5 stars on Letterboxd, but I actually think it's an overappreciated movie.
Lincoln, can we just? You said we started watching this. You forced somebody else to watch this movie with you?
Oh no, I'm saying the we the royal
three of
podcast
us
we.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right.
All right. I was just
Yeah,
making
yeah.
sure that You didn't subject
No,
somebody
no.
else to this.
I thought
I would
you,
not subject anyone I love to this
Okay, good.
movie.
I thought you
this is-
stumbled on something, Preston. There, I thought you found something.
Yeah. Well, I was just really, really hoping that Lincoln hadn't forced somebody else to watch this.
Man, that was
This is one of
close.
those movies
Preston-
where, with this podcast, we are doing you a favor by watching this, so you don't have to.
Yeah, that's true.
Really take our word
Yeah,
for
other
it.
ones,
Just like
other ones, we've
let
made
us-
some fun goofs about like, oh, you shouldn't watch it. Don't watch this because like I'm
Don't.
not sure everyone who watches it makes it through. Like in life, I don't mean you stop the movie.
Oh yeah,
I think this
Like,
movie
make it-
stops you.
make it to the. Yeah. This is, I think, like a Wanted, or perhaps a Real Steel, is one where I think people still would benefit from watching.
That was-
would have at least a good time.
was really
Lincoln,
cool
you're
of you
the
to
only
pick.
one of us that hates that movie and thinks it's bad.
No, I'm right now saying that it's worth watching.
Oh, okay.
I just feel like you named two movies that weren't. Neither of them were mine, and one of them was from both of you. So
Okay, sorry. Or a Cue the Winged Serpent would still be worth watching.
thank you,
No, that one is also not worth watching.
Preston. You gave me one compliment, Preston.
Yeah, he gave you that compliment. I don't also have to give you that compliment.
That's true.
I was gonna say Constantine. I couldn't think of it in
Sure
time.
you are. So Preston, tell us about this movie. Bring us home. We're about to wrap up this episode. We've had some fun today, folks. We've had a lot of
man.
Had a
fun.
lot of fun.
Well, first I just want to say that I have the plot pulled up because I don't want to miss any of the heart-stopping, crucial components of this.
You wouldn't want to miss any of the
No,
two
I-
things that
and-
happened.
You don't miss either of the things. that happen.
The poster for it is it's terrible. Like it's almost worse than the movie.
Well, that's a bold claim. Let's
how?
hold on.
Back to the plot.
Is it just like a slug has been cut in half and then wiped on a blank sheet of laser
I
paper?
thought you
No,
said
it's
worse than the movie.
It's just it's Will and Jaden, right? Like half their faces, and they're both just looking real, sort of intense, but also just like very dead inside, which I feel like describes this movie very, very well. And then it says danger is real, fear is a choice very prominently, which is
I don't know, I
kind
think
of a
it's
raw
fine.
line.
Oh, we're all looking at it. Hang on, kids. Hang on, friends.
We're all looking at it
Yeah, this wouldn't be the start of
looks
a
fine.
podcast without Preston introducing a visual
without
element
Preston
to it.
trying to introduce a visual
Yep,
element.
Yep.
I
You're welcome.
I'm a graphic designer. I literally this is something I can professionally tell you if it's good or not.
Do tell.
Are you looking at the one
you can.
with the two half faces or with their
Right.
bodies?
Yeah, it's the IMAX
half
poster.
face.
IMAX.
Yep.
Yeah, this is dog shit. This is really
Thank you.
not good.
Thank you.
This is really bad.
Like it tells you nothing about the movie, just that Will and Jaden Smith are in it, and that is the only reason you should watch it.
To be fair, that is
I think
kind of
that's the only
Arguably,
reason
that is-
anyone watched it.
yeah, for sure. It's kind of the only drawing factor.
I want to talk about M. Night Shyamalan as a director really
I
quick.
think we ought to because it's not going to be relevant later on because I'm not sure he made this movie.
I was trying to think about this man who has made some movies that I really unironically genuinely love. I love Unbreakable. I love The Sixth Sense. I even like Signs. I'm one of those crazy weirdos that like
No,
Signs a lot.
Signs is great.
Okay. And I was thinking about how he could make a movie that is so much like materially and technically and like visually worse than even something like Johnny Mnemonic, which is just at least cheap looking,
Yeah.
but it doesn't like actively look bad. And I was thinking about how I like to think of myself as someone who can look into electronics and repair them. And because I have a modicum of knowledge about, for instance, Nintendo Switches, I can really irreparably damage a Nintendo Switch a lot easier than someone who has no idea how to unscrew one and get inside. And so what I'm saying is, I think M. Night knows just enough about filmmaking to just really fuck shit up. You know, like
He got right under the skin just far enough to find the exhaust port to toss the bomb through.
yeah. And he's like, I have no idea how to get out of this. I just know enough. It's me with a soldering iron in one hand and a screwdriver in the other saying, what have I just done?
I very much buy M. Night Shyamalan as a guy who's gotten himself too deep in the paint on one thing, but really wants to not be doing that thing anymore. That
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
I have a fun fact to share.
I I hope it's not
started-
related at all.
scrolling down on the Wikipedia page about this movie. And apparently, Will Smith came up with the story.
Wow, Will Smith really
Boy.
had a premise.
Yep.
Based on a
Apparently,
premise by Will Smith.
he made up the story. It was supposed to be about a father and son like crashing their car in the mountains or a remote
So-
region with the son having to get
hold on.
rescue.
That would have been so much already. That would have been better.
Then decided to change the setting to 1,000 years in the future,
Right.
and
they
also
crashed
intended it to
their
be the
same
first in
car.
the trilogy.
Where
Okay.
would you go with this?
I wouldn't, Preston, Wikipedia might be unreliable, but I would 100% believe that Will Smith in 2013 was like, I'm going to make a movie where I get to sit on a chair and talk at a screen for 2 hours, and my son Jaden has to do all of the actual
Yeah.
work.
And God damn it, he did it. He made it happen.
He did it. He made it happen. Maybe we should say what the actual movie's about so that people know what we're talking
That
about.
might be a good idea.
Should we?
Well,
Should
so
we
this
do that?
movie,
Yeah. We
we
should.
have to.
And Preston, you should go just off your notes from now on.
the
Like
You don't want him.
I just want your memory.
You don't want cheat codes?
I don't want cheat codes.
the notes.
Is that a blank piece of
There's
paper?
no notes.
Preston,
Oh, that's why he has the Wikipedia
Preston,
pulled
the
up.
balls of that decision are blinding.
Because there is nothing noteworthy to note about this movie.
I've got
No,
Other than-
hard
I
disagree.
got pages
Terrible.
on pages on pages, my guy. I
excellent.
disagree.
All right, good. Perfect. So,
But I stand by what I said. Walk us through this totally
Right.
blind.
yeah. So the premise of this movie is, you've got Will Smith, who's like this. He's like a general in the military. He's got his son, and humans have left Earth, presumably because everything evolved to kill them, and they had to leave. So they moved to another planet that has these crazy monster beast things that tries to get them and hunts with fear. It's like a blind beast hunts with fear. And so the entire premise of the movie is that Will Smith's character cannot feel
Well, it
fear.
hunts by smelling fear.
What?
It can smell
Right,
your
sorry.
fear. You said it hunts with fear. I was like, yeah, I guess that's true.
It's not
We're good,
incorrect.
sorry. Move
Lincoln,
on.
that's not the hair to split.
It's
with
not
this
incorrect.
movie. Hunts by smelling fear, and Will Smith's character is immune to these monsters because he has no fear
Or emotions whatsoever.
or
if I
emotions
may.
whatsoever, which gets interpreted
Yeah.
with absolutely zero emotion, interesting acting, just total stoic. You could have gotten a tree to play this part better for pretty much the entire movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've also got this really interesting monster hunts by smelling fear topic that gets brought up very early in the movie and then doesn't actually get brought up until the end because that would have made a much more interesting movie.
And we can't
And
have
we
that.
can't have that.
God forbid.
Instead, we
Yeah,
get
yeah.
a video game leveling up of
do? That's true.
Ty, the Jaden Smith's character, as he sort of goes on a wild and mystical adventure across Earth, fighting monkeys and leeches and mountain lions and freezing cold.
Yeah, great. There's the synopsis.
That's
so
a
That's the first.
if that's what you came
3/4
here
of the
for,
movie.
I want to address Will Smith's acting. I could watching him, an actor. I'm going to be saying this sentence a lot. An actor who's made movies I really do like.
Yeah. A charismatic man.
A charismatic man.
Hitch-
he can elevate a script.
Hitch
I've seen him do
himself.
it. Hitch, the Fresh Prince, Big Willie style himself, His Eminence. I could swear that M. Night is just behind the camera with a gun pointed at Jaden, saying if your eyebrows so much as move, I will pull this goddamn trigger.
Yeah, I feel like to say that is to assume that it's not just like a, how do I phrase this? Sickness that he gained on this movie and then passed down to his son. Because I think neither of these people deliver a line with actually I wrote a note here that says Jaden Smith delivers these lines with all the emotion of a Guinness World Record holder for most plastic surgery in face. And
Equally
I feel like that's it's like it is unfathomable how bad these guys are in this movie, and like they're good in other shit. Like what happened here?
It's like they're competing with each other to see who can move their mouth the least.
Yeah.
See, the problem is they took Will Smith, who in let's just say Men in Black is really fun and quippy and entertaining and larger than life, and then you said, hey, take all of those things that you're great at acting and bring to the role and just get rid of all of that.
That's true. It feels like an anti Will Smith. Like let's take everything that you can shine with and just flush it down the toilet.
Wow. Is it possible that they did find the negative Smith?
Bill Smith?
Billiam Smith?
Bill Smith, the Dark King of Sacramento?
Oh, that's funny.
I don't even have anything to add.
Now that you know, I've seen that fun fact that Will Smith conceived that story. I think he thought of the story and then was playing a video game and said, "Hey, this is how this movie's gonna go."
But like a bad one where you have to like grind your way up to the levels.
Right. Yeah, he's just leveling up. At some point, he like destroys some of his resources, and it's like a whole thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. He does.
Yeah.
I feel like I fully believe that this idea came to Will Smith when he was driving through the mountains for some reason, and then he like almost got into an accident, and he went, "God, could you imagine?" And then that's like the end of his thinking on that. It's just like, man, can you imagine if I did?
This movie starting with, if it had been in real life and it started with a car accident, I think I would have bought in so much more to this movie. I think I already would have cared more about the characters because I know that they're like in real actual life and there's real actual stakes involved.
And like the whole like fear thing, like that
you know
wouldn't
what?
have to
M.
be
Night would have done a much better job directing that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, and it's like the whole like fear concept, which makes them so wooden. Like that wouldn't be there. It would be so much.
No. It would.
It would. It would be like
It'd be about overcoming the fear.
It'd be like a deer that can. You smell like scared.
You smell like scared, but thankfully I've got a velvet nose. You can just pet me, and now's probably as good a time as any to start going through the plot beat by beat and give our good podcast humor that we're known for.
Should we start doing that?
Podcast
Do you think?
humor. We have it.
I think it's just a good a time as any.
It's so much as none of us really would like to do that, but we kind of have to.
Yeah.
I first of all, I'd like to apologize to all of our viewers. The synopsis that I just gave was far more interesting than the actual movie.
For real.
Because I am trying to make this exciting and failing.
You know, let's not apologize though. We just gave them a more interesting experience than watching the movie.
Well,
This is true.
we should probably apologize, just maybe not for that.
Let's just do this. If you think about watching this movie, instead just go watch 65.
Is that good? Is that any good?
It's slightly better. I mean, you compare it to this movie, and it's a cinematic masterpiece.
I love that the bar is so low that I'm like, hey, is that movie good that you just compared to being better than this movie? And Preston goes, it's fine. It's a movie. It's tolerable.
There's actual acting in it, and it feels like there's very real stakes.
Somebody
and
felt
there's
like
there's
they
dinosaurs.
made it.
So, the monsters are better.
You know, I'm thinking about a movie. There's like this movie I'm imagining that's like a metaphor for parenting, and there's dinosaurs, and they're like, there's like a father figure who has to guide kids through a dangerous situation.
Dinotopia? The movie Dinotopia?
Oh yeah, Dinotopia. Yeah. Thanks.
Do you guys remember Dinotopia? Actually, this podcast is just talking about
idea.
Dinotopia now.
Dinotopia. I cannot tell if I want to say yes, but I don't know if this is a real thing or if this is in the goof.
There's no goof involved in this.
Wait.
Oh no.
You're telling. There's
a movie called Dinotopia? Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I heard Lincoln start to talk, and I was about to start listing shows that have Pedro Pascal in it.
Oh yeah, America's Dad, Pedro Pascal.
Yep.
So what is this movie that Bill did? What did he do to us?
Well, so we
Dark
open
King Bill.
You know how last week we had a real terrible opener to Johnny Mnemonic with an opening crawl and some flashing lights? This is somehow worse, where we get a montage narrated by Jaden Smith, who is so like whiny and like
Yeah, his voice is so thin. It feels like he did the whole voiceover like leaning away from the mic with his hoodie like over his eyes.
that are like you gave a little kid like a whole bunch of sugar and a whole bunch of caffeine and said, "Hey, read this script." We get introduced to our boy Katai.
Karate Kid. We're gonna call him Karate Kid, right? Like we're not gonna call him Katai.
Karate
Karate
Katai.
Kid who does zero cool moves.
Hey,
Not
he's
even
got
a
that
single
one.
cool
He's
move.
got that one against the Jaguar where he sort of like kind of tries to like tackle it at one point in the nest.
Oh yeah, that's a cool
That's a
move.
neat
Oh,
little
that's
move.
a
he
cool
does the
move.
cool like staff thing and just sort of
Yeah.
taps it through. All right, fair enough, fair enough.
So anyways, what does he do?
Well, here's what he does, Lincoln. We get introduced to him that his dad.
I feel the pace. I feel it.
Or his dad is the big bad general who can ghost, which is when you feel no fear and exude no fear, and the monster can't smell you and can't hunt you. And then we get introduced to Katai, who in his first scene fails his final exam to become a big bad ranger. And he sort of has a little temper tantrum in
Yes,
the
he
Sort
does.
of.
military commander's office. In his very squeaky, just absolutely heinous voice that I cannot get over and will not get over.
Nor should you. It's a crime.
Yep, it truly is. This whole movie is a war crime for sure.
Yeah. I want to you've seen the movie A Quiet Place.
I have not.
Have you seen
have
it,
not.
Preston? Okay. Well,
I've
it's
seen
good.
it.
It's worth watching.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a rare treat to be able to not only imagine what the first draft that they obviously would have just thrown away would have looked like, but also see that movie actually get
Full
made.
to fruition.
Like imagining what the first draft of A Quiet Place that that was one of 50, that one actually got made, and it is After Earth.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Which, okay, actually, you know what? While we're on it, I think this is as good a time as any, as Lincoln is so fond of saying. I don't know. Okay, I'm trying to decide if this is going to be a Blade boner, but I'm so frustrated that alien monsters in movies apparently can only be the Cloverfield alien. Like, it can only be a thing with a weird head and a bunch of arms and the same skin color for the whole deal. Why? It's aliens. Why are we not being more creative in the design?
You want killer
The
clowns
Quiet
from
Place-
outer space.
No. Well, yes, but no. The A Quiet Place aliens get a pass
Edge of
from
Tomorrow.
me because they have like a thing to them. Edge of Tomorrow is exactly what I'm talking about. It's just
No, they're like smoke.
they're like
weird.
weird. Well, maybe I'm thinking of them.
Made of
Are
sand.
they? I really thought they were. Anyway,
Yeah.
but like, what I'm talking about is the like. Oh, I'm thinking of Tomorrow War. The Tomorrow War aliens and the like. Just that.
A movie we have all seen.
What have you? You know, hey,
I've
you know
seen
what?
it.
Don't test me, Lincoln, because Chris Pratt is about to punch you for this podcast. Okay. But does this get to you guys? Like, is it frustrating to you that aliens are all exactly this?
I mean, also the fact that aliens can apparently only be into one sense at a time,
Yeah. They've evolved so far that they're just real good at smelling
or
hearing.
But only
or
fear. They
being
can't
looked
actually
at,
smell humans,
or
just their fear.
just their fear. The funny thing, humans emit so many other smells, regardless of the kind of emotions that we feel. It would have been quite easy to just tune an alien to any one of those, like sweat. We sweat whether or not we're afraid.
Yeah, but then Jaden would have to learn how to not sweat.
He accomplished that in this movie. Do you see him sweat even
No, but
once?
he does so much running. That's a good point, actually.
Well, it's the smart clock.
Actually, never mind. The aliens have the right idea.
Oh yeah, I feel
Here's a hot
responsible
take.
for getting us off track.
Yeah, bring us back.
Well, no, I was just about to say, which the costuming design in this movie is not terrible.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree. That suit's pretty
His
sick.
No, it's
suit
not.
with
It's
like
not.
the color changing
The suit's cool.
and like the backpack, like
The
That's
color
all kinda
changing
cool.
and the color changing's done really tastefully. Like it always looks
Yeah,
nice.
it's a good time. I fully agree.
Yeah. All right. Now that we've talked about the potentially the only good thing in this movie,
100%.
there's a whole family scene where Will acts like an asshole army father. Jaden acts like a little asshole brat. The
And the mom is acting very reasonable, just level,
Yep,
even
the
keel.
mom just sorta
Did
sits in
either of
there.
you? Did all the shot reverse shots disorient and frustrate you in this scene?
100%.
Where it like almost looks like a split diopter shot, but actually maybe he was like Jaden's side of his face was like keyed into the
Yeah,
scene.
absolutely.
Like I kept watching it like, what is wrong? I don't understand what's happening and why does this look so
yeah,
weird?
it is bad in a way that can only be described as Star Wars prequels-y. Like there is something
Yes.
so specifically bad about that just right before they had good like CGI and good green screens and things that they could make kind of blend into that, just so close to being that, almost that, and they really thought it was there.
And it's this like, you see one half of Jaden's face and he's on the left side of the frame, but then you see the other half of his face and he's still on the left side of the frame. And you're like, is he like running back and forth across the table every time one of his parents speaks to him?
That's what you do. That's why he can run so fast, is because he's running a lot in his home.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. He's from a digital family, so they've got to all, work with each other. And then so then they finally go to like a wider shot of the whole table, and I felt like I took a breath for the first time. Just like it was so like, I don't like.
He didn't have to think about it. Finally.
See, I was breathing the entire time because there was zero tension, excitement, drama.
No, I'm saying the only
emotion.
tension I felt was the tension of like, how is this shot going to function? And the answer was it
didn't.
wasn't. It wasn't going to.
So then wife character convinces Will to take Jaden on a space journey because maybe
Yes.
there'll be, it'll be some good, healthy father-son bonding.
And definitely nothing could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, no,
especially
definitely
not since we're
no
moving
catastrophes.
one of the aliens.
Preston, you're making me so sad having told me that the original setting of this movie was our own time and place. Because right now I'm imagining literally the identical scene but shot in like a cabin, in like an actual cabin. And it already feels, it just would feel like better.
No, you'd shoot that in a city though. Like you'd have it be some
fine.
big glitzy city, and it would be that to kind of counteract the later woodsiness.
Well, okay,
For
now
sure.
I'm imagining shooting it in like a medium-sized apartment building in New
Yeah.
York. And it still feels way
It's
better.
very good. No, this is that would be a better movie.
And I'm imagining the father coming home from the military and being disappointed in something, like this veneer of fiction that is just so like pervasive, but also so like attention is brought to it so much. It feels like it's always cutting against anything that the movie could say
Oh, yeah.
or be.
Like hammocks. Who sleeps in hammocks?
Well, we
What
all know
is-
Lincoln does other things in hammocks, but
What is this
Yes,
coming
we
from?
do. There's a space hammock.
Do they
Lincoln.
have it? Does
What
he-
did you think?
There's a space hammock. I didn't even write a note about it.
Sure, you did. He wrote pages. Pages. He wrote a book on the space hammock.
Space hammocks wouldn't work in zero gravity.
Well, they're not in zero gravity. It's not.
That's true.
Anyway, so Preston, what's?
Okay, fine. I loved it. Let's move
There
on.
we go. This is the scene where Will Smith. This is the scene where old Billy gives his wife, who
Thank you.
ironically is not played by his wife. I was so shocked by that, like to my core. Anyway, he gives her the worst looking necklace that I've ever seen in my whole life. It
I love her fake surprise. She goes,
yeah. Oh yeah.
oh, like she didn't just like it's as if she's like in front of a mirror.
Yeah, like as,
and Will Smith doesn't know that the mirror is
as
there.
if she didn't just receive a necklace that looks like a testicle. Like
yeah, no, there is one person who can act in this movie. I will give you a hint. It is none of the major characters.
well, there's a lot of people who can. There's just also quite a few who choose not to.
Okay, fair.
They who did it.
That's very fair. They just didn't. That's fair.
Wait, hold on. He's gamified it for us, Lincoln. There's one person who
Yep.
can act in this movie.
All right, we'll see if you guys can guess.
Okay.
We're
the
gonna,
sister.
We're gonna
I
keep
know.
going.
It's the
if
calling shots. It's the sister.
Is it the
It's
sister?
the sister.
Okay, I guess there's two.
She acts.
Actually.
Yes, I'll take it.
Is it the guy from The Office that's on the ship?
There's
The
a guy
Office,
from The
the
Office on the
show?
ship.
Yeah. It's Pam's fiance. He's on the ship. He's
That's-
like sitting next to the big sphere.
That's who that was. I couldn't figure
Really?
it out.
Is it that guy?
Is he the guy who gives the whole speech to?
Oh
No.
no, it's that guy. That's who
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah, he's pretty good too.
It's the only halfway decent acting performance in this, besides the sister. That's fair. I'll give you that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, she did.
Sister
She did
does a
great.
pretty good job.
So after this scene with the necklace,
So
Big Willie style goes. Oh yeah, the alternate version would be Wig Billy. Wig Billy style.
Wig Billy Lyles.
Wig Billy Lyle. Wig Billy Lyle. Alligator Hunter.
The disgusting Duke of Bel Air.
The disgusting Duke of Fresno. Anyways, he walks into Jaden's room, and Jaden is just like blankly staring into space
well, he's practicing
Yeah.
to be, being emotionless.
to have no
And-
fear.
exactly.
Yes.
Right.
And I
He's
think
trying to go. He thinks his dad works the same way. He's trying to be so still and without fear that his dad can't
Can't see him.
can't smell his fear.
can't find him.
Guys,
maybe.
gang, I hate it when my dad smells my fear. I hate it. That's my least
He
favorite
makes
thing.
me go on a spaceship with him.
Yeah, he makes me go on a spaceship. He makes me mow the lawn. It's the worst.
Mow the lawn until you're not afraid anymore.
Mow your fears away.
Are we gonna start a youth program for troubled teens? Mow your fears away.
It's called Big Brother Fear Smelling Dad.
Big Brother feels smelling dad medium-sized lawnmower. So,
Anyways,
yeah, John, I think you hit the nail on the head with a prequels comparison,
Thank you.
and I would also venture to say very Spy Kids of this movie.
Oh yeah, it's got the stank.
But the problem is, Spy Kids have a sense of like silliness and campiness that this movie does not.
True.
This movie has the look of a Spy Kids movie, but the like severity of the prequels.
I think there is a single goof or joke that lands in this entire movie.
Preston,
No,
you really,
I don't think there is.
You really slid into that sentence. I can't help but notice.
How do we feel about the fact that there are 4 actors in the whole world who can pull off Shyamalan's dialogue, and one of them is Mel Gibson?
Does he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
What movie?
he totally does.
In Signs.
Oh, I haven't seen that
In
one.
Signs.
Yeah. Well, okay, hold on. The 4: Mel Gibson, Joaquin Phoenix, Bruce Willis. I'm 3 out of 4. Hold on, I can do it. Is it the kid? It's the kid. It's the kid in Sixth Sense.
That's actually not the people who I had in mind, or not the last one who I had
None
in
of
mind.
them.
No. I'm saying the last.
Oh, okay.
I actually didn't think of 4 people. I just like pulled 4 out of my ass. But,
Well, here I am making myself look the fool.
but you delivered. You delivered. I think those are the 4 though. I think you did get
I mean,
it.
I'm hard pressed to find anybody else who seems like a human being, and I'm including himself anytime he shows up in his movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think Anya Taylor-Joy wouldn't have if she had to say anything, but since she doesn't have very much dialogue in Split, she could kind of just get away with
that
it.
forgot she was in that.
movie.
She's great. I think James McAvoy again. We wouldn't think he could have pulled it off if that movie had more dialogue.
Well,
in it, but
he's just laying the
it
accents
doesn't.
on pretty thick, is I think what gets him through.
Yeah.
Have we made it to space in this movie? Are we there?
No.
No, we're close though. We're really close.
So they go to space.
Thank you.
They're in the ship. Which the ship and like the set design is.
Why does the ship look like it smells like an unfinished basement?
Okay, so imagine.
It does.
Okay. I'm about to make this analogy. So
Thank you for warning
I'm
us.
about to hear it.
no. I'm very scared that I'm scared to make this comparison.
Oh, Preston, like
Because
45
I'm
seconds
about
of me
to
talking about
compare-
Blade's boner. You're good. It's not going to be the worst.
So the set design of this movie. Imagine the world in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 that's like all organic and like kind of goofy and like a little unsettling,
Yeah.
but like it works and it's kind of cool. Like sort of that aesthetic,
Uh-huh.
and also just really, but like not fun and funny. You know, this analogy is
But
really
it
falling
died.
apart.
It died.
No, I understand what you're saying because it's got that yucky door.
Well, it's got that very like organic like
Yeah.
feel that they were
Yeah,
going for.
it
Like the inside of the ship is like an esophagus.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if H.R. Giger like took a shit, this is probably what it would look like.
Who's HR? Hang on.
Yeah, Google him. He's the guy who he did a lot of designs, but he did the design for the xenomorph and Alien.
Oh, interesting.
His design. He's really good.
he's
He's really good at his
A
job.
genius, yeah.
This is very
just
David
were-
Lynch's Dune to me.
Masterpiece.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally.
Sorry, I should have brought that up and given Lincoln.
You can understand why I like it so much.
There we go. Now we're
Preston,
gonna have
what
to
if-
listen to Lincoln talk about David Lynch's Dune.
What have you done? We were just out. We finally got out of it.
So sorry.
So the CGI when the ship is actually in the air doesn't look bad at
Fine.
all.
It's perfectly fine.
Looks
There's
fine.
a couple of shots of CGI in this movie that I think are very passable.
Very downright passable.
I think they are acceptable as hell.
Why? So we mentioned the inside of the basement is, or not the basement, the spaceship is so like it's. We didn't touch on that it's so bare.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the walls.
Yeah.
There's no cables or lights or anything.
It's like a warehouse of a ship.
It's like they got 3/4 through designing the set, and Shyamalan was like, "Oh, that's fine." They're like, "Oh, we have all these like stickers we're gonna put, and we have all this plaster work we're gonna finish up on." He's like, "No, you're good."
Yeah,
It
he's
does.
like,
Let's just
I think
shoot it
that's
right
my
now.
issue
Perfect.
with it. It feels very unfinished.
yeah.
And it
Yeah,
doesn't.
and it's shot in the least flattering way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
and it
like,
doesn't feel unfinished in like a military way. Like it doesn't feel like a militaristic.
It feels like an unfinished set,
Yeah.
not a bare bones military
100%.
transport.
Yeah.
Like if they had put them in an actual like inside of a military jet and not done any changes at all except maybe CGI a couple blue lights in the top, it would have been more convincing than
Would have
this.
bought it. Yeah. Also, it looks so uncomfortable to sleep in. Like he's just like
Yeah, they're all just asleep, just directly against the wall with no headrest or anything.
yeah, like an airplane but worse.
Yeah, like imagine falling asleep on. I don't even know.
I
Imagine falling asleep on a razor scooter. That's probably. That's probably
There it is.
the equivalent amount of comfort.
he found it.
and there's so many weird like elements that they try to mix in. Like when the next thing that happens is Jaden goes exploring and walks through what I can only describe as a grass wall of a tiki bar.
Oh,
But like a
yeah,
fake
that was
tiki
disgusting.
bar
Didn't
into
like it.
Oh, I was
the
looking down. I
cargo
didn't see that.
area, which is holding the dangerous monster. Which
Yeah, it
seems
looks like a car
terrible
wash.
idea to me.
I didn't like it at all.
Wait a second. They're holding the monster. The monster's trapped in a big
Yep.
rock. Surely they could have just like boiled the rock or sent it into space or something. Like why are they keeping this monster alive? Are they going to like try to get information out of it
Shits and
later?
giggles.
Did they ever explain
Because
that?
the plot demands it.
Yeah, we need a monster for this movie. Obviously.
I just
Lincoln,
realized.
it's
yeah,
to
why
make the
are
boss
they
battle
keeping it
happen.
alive? It's trapped right now.
You know, because the more realistic thing would be if these monsters came to Earth, and that's why they couldn't be on Earth anymore. But we need to save
makes so
it
much
for the
sense.
boss battle. So conveniently,
perfect sense.
the monster is guarding
see,
the tail
yeah.
section where it was held. So Jaden has
They-
time to
so
go
they
through
were
the
gonna throw it
levels
away.
before he meets the monster.
Yeah, they were gonna eject it, but Shyamalan was like, "Oh, sorry, we need this. We need this asset. We can't render a new one."
Or maybe it was just in his contract that, hey, we have to have one big cool monster at the end.
Yes, a man known for all the big cool monsters in his movies.
It's a good point, actually.
Also, the spaceship feels like it's not moving at all. There's like no sense of motion or momentum, even in the like shaky, we're gonna hit the asteroid scene.
Yeah, no.
And I
Which is a
think-
bad scene.
I also want
by
to
the
point
way.
out. Oh, I have seen puzzles that are solved with more drama and panache than this navigating through the asteroid belt.
And this is the problem.
Yeah,
is with Will Smith's acting is he's just so stoic and wooden and boring.
Did you just call him Lil Smith?
I love it.
I love that.
I love it. It's Bill Smith and Lil Smith.
Well, I am talking about Will Smith in this case.
Ah.
But like his whole
Brilliant.
scene is just like the entire
Old
scene
Billy.
is just like the two pilots like kind of freaking out but not really, and Will Smith just
Yeah.
standing there with a straight face. And so you never actually feel any suspense or excitement or intensity with the scene. It's like, oh,
No.
well, Will Smith doesn't feel
Oh, yeah,
anything,
yeah.
so there's no reason to be worried.
I totally agree. I was trying to watching this movie is almost a masterclass in how to make drama because it does such a poor job at it that it's like it's very easy to look through it and be like, oh, this is what they didn't do and that's why it didn't work. So I want to ask you guys, if you were directing the same exact scene, so the setup is very, very similar, what would you change to make anybody watching it feel even slightly like there's some intensity or that there's some danger?
Ooh, I have
In
one.
this scene.
I have an idea.
Ooh, yes, go ahead.
I would shoot it in a way that didn't feel like a rom-com for Netflix. I would shoot it.
So be specific.
I would shoot it with angles that look like, hey, we thought about this angle. Maybe one or two from like lower on a panel, looking up at somebody, being afraid.
Ooh,
Get a little
yeah.
of that. I'd get a couple of maybe exterior shots that have any intrigue whatsoever. Throw one of those or one or two of those in there. I might.
yeah.
I might.
I love this.
Dare I say, have
dare you say.
old Billy the Kid show a little emotion for the first time
Ooh,
in this movie.
that's an interesting idea, but the problem is, he refuses.
He's not going to.
Preston, what would you do?
Okay. I think the biggest issue with this movie is the lack of emotion and interesting acting, and like the whole fear premise, and how Will's character just has that zero fear ghosting thing the entire time. I want to see him like switch it on and off. So like instead of him,
So you're saying as an actor,
right?
might do.
Presumably, yes. Where I
You're
would rewrite
suggesting
this
he might
scene-
play a character.
where I would rewrite the scene as him, as Will Smith and Lil Smith are in the back, doing some good father-son bonding as they're supposed to be doing on this trip. When suddenly, ship goes crazy, starts breaking, whatever, but they don't know what's happening. So then he goes up to the front, worried because, oh, my kid's in here. And then he has to switch on the fear thing to then save them, like take control of the ship and save it, and then crash land it. Instead of what he does, which is, hey, there's an issue with the ship, and then the pilots are like, no, there's no issue, and then, oh, there's an issue. So he just solves that with zero suspense or interestingness. And then he says, hey, warp us now, and they go, no, and he goes, no, do it. And then they do it, and it's pretty much fine. Like, he's just sort of stands there stoically. Everything he says or wants, like everything he says to do just works, and there's zero conflict there.
Yeah.
Do you think that was intentional? Do you think the movie is trying to get us to adopt the ghost protocol and not feel any fear even when presented with danger?
I'll tell you what, I felt nothing for this movie, so they nailed it.
They
They
succeeded.
killed it.
Great job. Here's okay. This is the biggest thing. We're jumping ahead a little bit, but this is what I want out of this movie.
Fucking
I'm not worried.
Finally.
Is I want a scene. I want the scene in Dune where I'm so sorry I have to bring up Dune again.
It's bound to happen.
But I
M.
think
Night
this is a
Shyamalan's
great
Dune.
analogy where the scene where
This is M. Night Shyamalan's David Lynch's Dune. Sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
where
scene where-
Jessica is like outside the door, Paul is being tested, and she's like really scared and nervous, and then she says the litany of fear, and then is like calm and accepting, and we get to watch that emotional change. I want that for Will Smith's character. I think that would make this movie 1,000 times more interesting. It would tie everything together more, add some more stakes, and you would actually feel anything about it.
I thought about the litany against fear in this movie.
Yeah.
I thought about it. I didn't go any further.
Have any fault. Preston, I agree with you. I think that would be if I connected with
totally
the characters in this movie, I genuinely think I could very easily overlook all the production design and all of that and all the like kind of negative sides of it and go, hey man, that was a pretty solid sci-fi movie. Pretty solid movie. But when you don't connect to any of the characters and then CGI Jaden Smith jumps off a like random piece of rock,
It's a log.
I don't know, man.
You know?
Yeah, there's no reason.
I don't really care.
Which that also leads me into my second big issue with this movie is none of the characters really have any sort of like meaningful emotional arc. Like
No.
Well, they go through the song and dance
Right.
of one, but we're not like actually. We're told we're not shown that there is
Yep.
one.
Yeah, like by the end of the movie, Will Smith looks at his son as if he cares about him. But that is
and then he
at no
salutes
point
him.
in the movie
And
are
there's
we
a
led
real
to believe
awkward
that
hug.
makes any sense.
And there's like some would have been powerful subtext in that like the dad lost his daughter to one of these monsters and he blames himself.
Yeah.
And he also he blames himself and by extension he blames his son, and so his son is wrestling with the same kind of guilt that his dad is putting on him. But there's no like we see all this happen and yet it doesn't add up to anything. It doesn't create any drama or feeling.
No, it's got nothing.
There's a lot of movies that if the central conflict was that a character lost his daughter and is blaming his son for it, that would maybe bring me to tears.
Yeah.
That's,
Oh, for sure.
That's like a powerful premise.
Boys, I think it's about time. We're a little over halfway through this episode. And I think that it's the right time to take a second and address a word from our sponsors. And our sponsors today is the book Vin Diesel Fueled for Success. So,
Oh yes, yes, I forgot.
so I found this book at Second and Charles for $1.47. And I read it in 2 days because it's very small, and also I was very intrigued. And I'd like to just, we could do a whole book report on it if we want to, but really more than anything, I've got just a few excerpts that I kind of want to read to you guys, if you don't mind.
Can this be like a backdoor pilot for Vindication?
I think it's about time. This is our little mini episode of Vindication, a podcast that at least Lincoln
Forgive
and
us, Father, for we have Vind. Or maybe it's called The Vineyard. I think The Vineyard is funnier.
It's one of those two, but we're the Vinions, and we have... So I just want to read to you. Okay, my first excerpt comes from literally the beginning of the book. Like the first chapter, the first 3 sentences. I'll go 3. It is the most unhinged opening to a book I have ever read. Never let it be said that Vin Diesel has forgotten his roots. On September 11th, 2001...
On the defensive immediately.
On September 11th, 2001, Vin was very far from his native Manhattan. He was across the country in California. That is how this book fucking starts. It starts with 9/11, boys, okay?
Can every episode of The Vineyard be start with "Never let it be said," and then we say something about that's not true about Vin Diesel?
Can you imagine the tonal whiplash that I experienced in going from, hey, I got this book on Vin Diesel, to remember one of our nation's greatest tragedies?
Never let it be said.
I was so
Vin Diesel.
unprepared for this concept.
Say it one more time. I need to memorize it. I need to memorize it like a prayer, like a confession.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I will now read. Chapter 1, verse 1.
Never let it
from
be
the Book
said,
of
Father,
Vin.
that you have forgotten your roots.
It's so. Oh man, this book is so incredible. I cannot express how happy it makes me, because it's obviously it's not written by Vin Diesel, or as far as I can tell, anyone who's even met Vin Diesel. It seems to me a collection of reviews and interviews that he's done that they've sort of patched
vignettes, if you will.
A couple of vignettes. Oh, holy shit! Yeah, some vignettes.
Thank you, Preston. You might have to be part of this project now.
That is my contribution.
Oh man!
Come on, Lincoln. I can only be a filthy freeloader on one podcast. You know, that's enough work for me.
Another fun kind of a quote from this book is a quote from Vin Diesel himself, and it's really not funny until you hear where the quote comes from. That's where the left turn comes in. It says, when you're a bouncer, he was a bouncer, by the way, something I learned. When you're a bouncer, everything you say has to be reinforced with an unspoken threat that the situation can be handled in a physical manner. He explained on beatboxbetty.com.
Those are some unhinged forums back in the early 2000s.
Gets intense. This is a fun quote. Vin Diesel has an amazing voice. Just ask producer Allison Abate. And then direct quote, Vin's voice is great, she said on the Iron Giant's official website.
Great. I mean, yeah, he has done some good voice acting. She sure
said it.
I appreciate the back of the book says he's diesel powered.
He's diesel powered.
As if... What was... John, in your professional graphic designer experience, what was the artistic purpose behind that inclusion
of telling us that he's diesel powered?
Right.
He just answered the question. That's it.
Like, to tell us that he's diesel powered. How would you? Oh,
what's the point of saying he's diesel powered other than to say he's diesel powered? What kind of question is that?
If I was diesel powered, I would let everyone know. Here's an ironic little quote. I've got two more for you, boys, and then we will have hopefully found our funny, and then we can jump back into the podcast. And this one's a little bit longer, and I just think it's really telling of the exact year, which is 2002, that this book was written and came out. Direct quote. In fact, Vin says that no amount Universal Studios could have offered that would have gotten him to sign on to the sequel of the Fast and Furious. I'm committed to a sequel of Pitch Black, maybe a trilogy of sequels, and I knew going into Triple X that I would want to revisit Xander Cage. I put a lot of energy into making that character and the film as good as they could be, and with that thought in mind, he explained to E! Online. With the Fast and Furious, I didn't go into it thinking I would make a second one.
Well, he knew he wanted to make.
I love that he said he put a lot of energy into Triple X.
He put so much energy into Triple X.
Because we've reviewed that movie. We have felt the diesel powered strength from his performance.
Oh yeah, we feel it, we sense it, we can smell it. So, and then the last one, and this is where I'm like, you had a long enough book. I don't know why we're doing this. But the last one is just an example of what the final chapter of this book is focused around. I find this is a quote from Vin for a second. I find myself looking for security. Serenity has all of a sudden become more important. Okay, that's the quote. And then this is really what I wanted to read to you. That might come as a surprise to some people, but as an astrologer, Vin's mom had to know that was a natural state of mind for her Cancer son. And so the rest of the chapter is just about what astrology says about cancers and how that applies to Vin Diesel. Guys, this book is the most unhinged thing I've ever read. I'm so glad it exists. It just makes me so happy. There's a quiz at the end of it, just on Vin Diesel. So it's.
Can you mail this book to me after you're done with it?
I think we're gonna have to. So
or maybe I'll track.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I feel like that was a good moment for us to find our funny.
Can I?
It was. I think we have
just take just a moment to appreciate the way that you're talking about this moment of finding our funny. Sort of it's like we're taking it's like reading the Bible verse of the service. It's like, we need to take a second, and read from our Bible the book about
with
Vin
reverence.
Diesel.
With reverence, the book
ourselves.
Vin Diesel Fueled for Success.
I just appreciate that is
Vin Diesel
is what we're doing right now.
Feels important to me.
It's a moment of quiet reflection.
Indeed.
of somber thinking about
Yeah,
Vin.
actually, if
Mr.
if I
Diesel.
can ask that we do take a moment, let's go 10 seconds of silence. And Lincoln, don't cut this out. Don't you dare cut all 10 seconds out, because
10 real-time
10
seconds
real
of
time
silence.
seconds of silence where we are actively thinking about Vin Diesel. I'm even going to put the cover up on my camera so that you guys can look at Vin. 10 seconds.
And let's encourage our audience to do
Please
the same.
do the same, everybody. We'll find our funny together. And so in 10 seconds, starting right now. Thank you, everyone.
You may be seated.
Can Lincoln, can you just like edit out all noise right there? So for 10 seconds, people are like actually trying to figure out like if their headphones are broken or if the podcast is frozen.
Or I was imagining I would like fade in and out like distant Vin quotes. like welcome to the Sanders home.
Family.
We're family. But I think that's just going to happen in his mind, in the audience.
I mean, that's what happened to him. I heard that, so I don't know. Preston.
So getting back to
yeah,
this
the movie, they
ship
crash
lands.
right?
Both of Cypher's legs are broken. Sorry, Cypher is Will's character's name. Cypher Rage, I do believe.
And he named his kid Keto. What does he name his kid?
Katai.
Kyber Crystal.
Katai Rage.
Katai.
Yeah, I love that he named his kid Settlers of Catan. I thought that was a really bold choice.
I haven't met a lot of boys named Candace, but you know. I think.
So sorry, Preston. We're being dicks over here. What did Kwanzaa do after that?
So the next thing that happens is Cypher gives a whole big speech about how both of his legs are broken. Katai needs to go find the tail section of the plane to find the magical transponder to get them rescued.
And then this was the greatest single moment of disappointment in my life. Yeah, not in the movie, in my life. When I realized, oh no, the rest of this movie is just going to be Jaden.
Yeah.
We're not even going to have Will Smith's comforting presence.
It's going to be on our shoulders, just on Jaden.
Just on Jaden. Like, I had hoped that they would bond, together in a maybe Hunt for the Wilder People sort of manner.
I experienced that fear a little bit later on when they lost connection, and I was like, we don't even get cutaways to Will Smith.
See, that's my theory, actually, with why they had to make this a sci-fi movie and not just a car accident on a snowy mountain. Actually, no, I take that back, because they could have had, like, walkie-talkies or something, and it would have been a far more...
Yeah, he could have been a dad driving, like, a Jeep and been prepared for this kind of thing.
And it could have been a far more interesting thing with the walkie-talkie running out of battery instead of... Oh no, the magical thing got smashed.
Just breaking.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah. And then instead of him trying to get to the radio transponder, he's trying to get to like the Rangers like station or whatever. Like he's trying to actually get to help so that they can go
like
find his dad who's at the
or something.
Yeah, he's trying to find a lookout point or something.
I will say, as someone who's written many stories in my past, it's a little bit of a miracle that we have any just natural on Earth survival stories, because every time I imagine you're writing one of those, you have to think for just a second, what if it was in space and there was aliens? Like that thought I promise you has crossed every person's mind. The people who wrote Twister, that crossed their mind. What if it was a space twister? Guaranteed. The people, by the way, who made Jurassic Park, the people who wrote Jurassic Park, and I'm not talking about Crichton, although also Crichton, but whoever wrote the screenplay for Jurassic Park for
that is also
for
Crichton.
1 second. Is it really? Cool.
Yeah.
So Crichton definitely Crichton for 1 second went, well, I already did this shit on Earth. What if I did it up in the space stars?
But then there's someone else in the room who goes, no, the movie would cost $50 million extra for literally no reason.
No one had that for M. Night. M. Night just had his whole say.
Jaden does a pretty sick wall jump.
He does do a pretty all right wall jump.
He jumps up onto a log. Oh, he climbs up a big cliff. So Preston, go ahead, tell me, how is this climbing? He makes it to the top, so I assume it was at least okay.
Yep.
Preston's climbing corner.
I have nothing bad to say about the climbing necessarily. The
Shocking.
climbing at the very end where he's like pushing against one side of the crack, like using opposing pressures on the rock to make upward ascent. That was
There he
definitely
is.
very realistic and well done. That's called stemming. So yeah, it was fairly realistic climbing.
So just
actually.
realistic in the sense that yes, that does
Right, yep,
happen.
exactly.
That he did do that. He probably did do that in real life as they
Yep.
filmed it.
Well, he was trying to run away from having to be in this movie, and they said, "Hey, this will be fun if we just record this and mix it in the movie."
Get back here. Okay, guys, how often do you see a monkey and want to throw a rock at it? Because Jaden apparently is on the daily, because that was his first instinct when he sees a dangerous animal. He's like, I'm going to throw a rock
Yeah,
at
that
it.
boy didn't think about it for 1 second.
Not-
He was like,
not good
monkey
wildlife
gets rock. That's what
survival
happens.
Rock beats monkey. Paper beats rock.
Monkey, lizard beats paper. It's all full circle. I take umbrage with. Oh, here he is. I take umbrage with the fact that he gets a leech, but in the part that was clearly, and I have this confirmation, shot like in California, in Northern California, in the redwoods.
Yes, there's like redwoods.
This was shot near my wife's like childhood home, and so she was like, I have been to these places, and he gets a leech there, and not where you would say find a leech in the rainforest that's apparently like 4 miles away, which I think is both of those things are insane, and I think it's wildly upsetting that he gets a leech when he like touches water one time and not when he's falls actively asleep in water another time.
Yeah,
point.
that's true.
And especially that he's like splashing and like
the
running
leech
through
is
the
a-
water and like constantly moving.
Yeah.
And it's water that's cold enough that the monkeys don't want to swim through it as he's running away from it.
Yeah. Those are bad, by the way.
I
I feel
do-
like it's such a like we've already said the CGI is bad, but like the CGI monkeys are worse than bad.
They're bad. They're quite bad. So he gets the leech. I love he's on radio with the Fresh Prince the whole time, and he's like talking through. He's like, you're gonna have to inject yourself with the antitoxin. I also love the antitoxin. Like there's one.
Yeah.
Like inject yourself with the antitoxin. It just works against all of them. So maybe that's just like the future.
I don't think it does.
But then
I think it works
he's
against
like, I
that one
can't do it.
specifically.
And it's just very, very lucky.
Yeah.
And I like that it's like you have to put this in series, even though you
Yeah.
have to put them in like right after one another. So they're just gonna get mixed in your bloodstream and do.
Yeah, like what is
Literally the
the
same
like
thing.
half a second of also, but I love how he goes, you have to inject, and you're like, okay, he's gonna have to inject himself, and then Big Will goes, you have to inject it directly into your heart. Like, oh wow, there's an escalation right
Yeah.
there. Boy.
I thought that scene was okay.
You know, actually thinking
feel like
back
of
on
the-
it, it's like the only time that there's like sort of stakes with him. Like, oh,
There's some
like I
tension.
can't feel my hand, and he has to like
Yeah,
fall
and being
on
like
it.
you have to roll over on it. Yeah, that there's something there.
Uh-huh. It did remind me of the scene in Hitch when Will Smith drinks all the Benadryl
That's-
and his face gets all swollen. It's kind of funny that Jaden's face, when he is swollen, his face has an allergic reaction, looks very much like Will's allergic reaction
It
face.
runs in the family. Any Smith actor has to have some sort of allergic reaction, big puffy face. And they knew Jaden's probably not going to do a lot of these, so we got to get it in this one.
We got to get this one happen right now. Oh, and so Jaden, he recovers, but he breaks his little special oxygen capsules,
Yeah.
which let's maybe talk about that.
not?
The fact that they're on Earth and there's just abundant plant life and yet there's not enough oxygen.
Yeah.
That Preston, do you
Preston,
know
Preston,
anything?
you know stuff.
Obviously John doesn't, but maybe you do.
My only theory is Jaden was born on the other planet, which maybe has a higher oxygen density, so he's not adapted to Earth.
Wouldn't that be like me, someone from sea level going up to like
Yep.
Colorado? Like they don't
Right.
need to be on oxygen.
Hey, Lincoln, have you ever met someone from sea level coming to Colorado, and can you tell me that they don't tell you every day, like, it's kind of tough to breathe out here?
Yeah, but they don't die.
Nah, I mean,
They complain about it with air. They complain about it with air that they just breathed in.
Right. See, Lincoln. Actually, you know what? I do have an explanation for this. The movie needed stakes beyond the giant monster that can smell fear running around in the woods trying to get you. I apparently that wasn't stakes enough, so they just had to introduce this little thing, so the movie would have stakes, so they don't have to bring the monster out too early.
You know what the problem with those stakes are, though, is that this movie expected me to be paying enough attention to count how many it says and not just trust that Jaden would say the correct number, because I didn't. I didn't do that for 1 fucking second. It never crossed my mind to even double check that. So when he was like, "Oh, there's actually 2," I was like, "You bitch! Why do that to me? Like, why would you do that to me specifically?"
Also, Jaden, why are you lying? What do you hope to gain
What are you
from lying to
benefiting
your dad
here?
about this?
Yeah, like, you know.
Your dad's gonna be like, "Oh shit, you have less than we thought you had. That's bad." And Jaden's like, "Yeah, it is
Yeah,
bad."
it's not like
I don't know what the consequence was. Let's adapt our
If
plan.
that had happened, if he had broken those after he like disobeyed his dad's order, that would be a thing. That would be something where
That
you're
would
like,
actually be interesting.
sure. I can see why he would hide that. But at this point, he was just like, "Monkey gets rock, we go."
Oh, and so the Will Smith has like a heartbeat monitor on Jaden, and he can look, and there's this little scene where he's like, "How much oxygen do you have?" And Jaden's like, 4. And then he sees his heart rate go up, and then he's like, "Oh," and then you see Will Smith presumably is imagining, "Oh, I think my son is lying." And then I thought I was going crazy because they do the exact same scene again
Yeah.
with no changes.
He had to double check.
And it's like, wait, didn't we just see this scene? Did we just see this exact scene? I wrote at this point in my watching, there's lots of small things wrong with this movie, but when you add them all together, you get a select few big things wrong with this movie. Did any of you know that his suit had a wingsuit in it?
Okay, I did know this, but the only way that you could have known that is by looking at the stats. I don't know why I recognized this, but I couldn't count capsules that were clearly shown for me to count. But like behind Big Willie, there's a screen that has some stats on his suit, and it happens to show a wingsuit expanding at one point.
I feel like I also
but it's like
saw
mid. That's good. Okay, yeah, it's like mid dialogue, so it's at no point were we supposed to just assume that he had that for sure. But you could know.
Okay.
I did know, and in fact, that whole scene, I was like, okay, so the answer is clear. Jump off the thing.
Wingsuit.
Like it is so obviously built as a jump off point in a video game that it's like just jump. There's somewhere, I don't know where it was
He
in
jumps.
the movie, but there's definitely somewhere that I said I feel like there's a direction that this movie could go that I actually like, and that scares me. Obviously, it didn't choose to do that, but I think that's
Which
interesting.
direction would that be?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I wrote that in just a fever dream of this film.
This cliff jump scene is what I would like to refer to as the Nat 20 section of the movie.
Tell us about that.
Well, when you're playing a tabletop game like Dungeons and Dragons, a Nat 20 means that your actions are rolled. When you play a game like Dungeons and Dragons, the success of your actions is determined by the roll of a dice. And if you roll a 20, then it pretty much means that it goes as well as it possibly could. And so this is the section, and it happens in a lot of bad movies, but this is the section of the movie where, in order to move the plot forward, we basically have to make the character roll successive nat 20s over and over again so that he is just on this hot streak of blind luck so that he can get to the
Just
end.
as lucky as he could possibly be.
Which I think is a good way of looking at movies. I thought the same thing in The Creator. Like, they fail so often in the movie, and the last 15 minutes are like a dozen nat 20s in a row.
Oh, yeah. I feel that way about just Sony Pictures as a whole at this point.
Like every movie they make?
Yeah,
or
just, I don't know.
as a
It
studio?
seems to be like, because it's not like, if you rolled a nat 20 on them, like, making a good movie, that doesn't do it. But, like, aside from Morbius, all of their, like, Spider-Man related movies have made quite a significant amount of money. And that's not due to quality. Like, that's not because they're tremendous films.
But the weird thing is they've made really good films
Yeah,
as
they've
well.
also made very good Spider-Man specific films. We can't get started on that. Now's not the time.
No, we can't.
This is a bad movie. This is about when he fights the things in the nest. He fights the jaguars, and
Yeah, and all the little baby birds end up dying.
Every one of them beefs. I thought he was going to save literally one of them. He doesn't save any of them, but he does use his sword that looks like it was definitely the most expensive one at a Party City, which I think is important.
Yeah, at least it was the most expensive one. I couldn't believe that the movie takes place only 1,000 years after humans left Earth, because Shyamalan's very optimistic about how much evolution is going to happen in 1,000 years.
That's true.
Yeah, the flight looks terrible. That fight scene is okay, I guess.
It's got one cool moment for the trailer, and then they're out.
Yeah. Preston, I have a note that just goes, Preston? I don't even remember what I was looking at. Oh, that's what it was. He makes a raft out of logs, and it takes him 15 business seconds to complete.
He's got it.
And I want to know what's the feasibility of this log situation.
Zero reason for it.
Nothing.
Like,
Speaking of,
Well, not reason for it, but like ability to accomplish it.
in 15 seconds, probably not.
Preston, what would you say is your raft time?
My raft
What's your
time?
max raft? Yeah.
If you have nothing but logs and vines, and not even
I
and a
mean,
sword. Well, can
couple
you
of
make a
hours,
raft?
probably. Because in movies, it's like
Okay,
they
that makes
take
sense.
like 3 or 4 logs, like loosely tie them together, and then it sits perfectly flat. When you do that,
Yeah.
the whole raft just sort of like tacos like this, and just turns into a bundle of
Oh
sticks.
yeah. So you'd have to have ones that are going the other
Right.
that are at right angles.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time to like lash those in and like make it stiff. And
It does take a lot of time to make
Yep.
it stiff.
I feel like
We
Most of them-
Speaking of making it stiff, I find it really uncomfortable that Jaden Smith, Lil Smith, imagines his sister in like a sexy dress. I don't like that at all.
oh, when she visits him
I'm not
in the ancestral
I'm not
plane.
for that. I think he should have imagined her in a very comfortable hoodie, and I would have been comfortable with that. I would have been okay with that. But like, she shows up in like a strapless, shoulderless dress, and Lil Smith, I don't like the implications of this.
Well, did you know that that's Zoe Kravitz?
Excuse me?
Yeah, that's Zoe Kravitz.
Are you kidding me? It still doesn't take away from what I'm saying, but that's insane. I hate that.
I just really needed an excuse to say that that's Zoe Kravitz.
Say it. I'm proud of you. Wow, that's amazing. I have profoundly mixed feelings.
Is she one of the people that can act Shyamalan's dialogue?
I guess so. I guess she is, because I bought that scene.
She's the fifth.
The Fifth Sense.
When you said the thing about the dress, I could not have told you whether or not you were right, because I don't remember. I remember that scene happening. I have no idea what it
I
looked
am
like.
right. We have found ourselves at another of my Blade Boner TM moments where I'm just really showing what I pay attention to in these movies. But, you know,
Okay, well, yeah. It's a cool looking dress. It's got a cutout on one of the shoulders. She also did her hair really
yeah, it's
nice.
a
for this
good
scene.
looking dress. But like, imagine, okay, Lincoln. Oh wait, we all have sisters. Yeah, okay. So imagine all of our sisters. Can you like? I'm not gonna make you picture this, but like, just I don't know. If you were to be visited by your sister in a dream, I would hope that it's not in like something revealing. That's weird. No.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I understand what you're saying
you.
now that I've seen this image, and
I was so scared.
and
I was so
yeah.
afraid.
It wasn't that I ever disagreed with you. I just didn't know enough to know whether or not you were right.
I wasn't ready for another moment of shame.
well, let's wrap this up in a nice tight
Let's
9
wrap
and a
this
quarter.
this boy.
Thank you.
So finally, we get to the final scene where Will Smith has to fight the big bad monster that can smell his fear.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do we think about this fight scene?
I made a note, if I may. I made a note that says, "Wow, he did the one thing that they set up as an almost impossible but highly situationally necessary skill. Who could have guessed?" Which I feel like kind of sums my thoughts up on this movie. Like, and especially that scene. Like they set up this whole like it's called ghosting, and the second they do that, you're like, okay, cool. So he's gonna learn that.
Yeah, this is one where it's like I mentioned earlier of like going through the song and dance of a dramatic movie, but like this movie has done such a poor job of having any sense of character or progression or relationships or stakes that like you watch them like perform all of the necessary actions and yet you just cannot bring yourself to care about
There's
what's
just
going
nothing
on.
there for you.
they've invested so little effort into like setting this up that when it does happen, you're like, okay, it's happening now.
Yeah, honestly, 100%. Like, I think it would have been an interesting ending. I would have been genuinely surprised if he found a way to kill the thing that didn't involve doing that.
I thought about that.
That would have
way
been
more interesting.
That's something.
That he disagrees with his dad at the end, and he goes, "Fear is real.
Yeah.
Quit telling me fear's not real. Fear's totally real. The monster can smell it.
Yeah, it's time
dude."
to accept like our emotions. That would have been an interesting ending if he was like, "No, we need to acknowledge this instead of just pretending like all this shit didn't happen." But instead, they're just like, "Nah, he agrees. He's gonna shut down like his dad."
He agrees. Fear is not real. He's gonna shut down. He's gonna cope with the death of his super hot sister by just shutting away everyone
He's gonna
else.
cope with his smoking hot sister's death.
Because the way this movie ends is Will Smith stands up and he's like, stand me up, and like salutes him. And then Jaden runs in for the hug. Would have been so much better if Will had gone in for the hug instead of the salute. Would have really given him any sort of a character arc.
Jaden salutes and then Will hugs him.
Man, that would have been good. The one thing that I think is good in this movie is in the flashbacks when the alien is tearing through his family. I like that the only way Lil Smith survives is by being in this little dome of
in a terrarium?
Like another biome. I think that's genuinely interesting. I think that would be why the thing couldn't smell his fear. I think that is like the one thought in this movie that they didn't look directly down the barrel of the camera and say, this is what we're trying to say and do with this. And I think it's solid. I think there's something there.
And the flashbacks would have been the flashbacks were decent. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
It would have been way more interesting if they would have set the sister up as sort of like the stand-in for his dad. Like, oh, dad's not here, but my sister's here.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. And that's
right.
That's another thing that I find so infuriating with this is like the flashbacks would have been the perfect time to show that the dad used to be perfectly fine and cool, like a normal dad who loves his kids, and then he lost his kid and that turned him into this thing. But no, she's just like, wish me happy birthday, and he's like, fuck you. And like, what are we doing?
You're right. This movie has something to say about masculinity of like this man's trauma. Like he's totally shutting down, and this is not the correct way to cope, but since it's conforming to the expectations laid upon him as a man, he's never had any reason to want to change.
Yeah, but instead of saying anything about that, it's like, isn't he cool? Do we not love him?
do we not love Billiam himself?
And we don't even see that skill like as an asset for Will Smith's character. Except for, I think there's like one little tiny flashback. When he's like telling the story.
Yeah, where he's not afraid.
We just love an emotionally unavailable king. That's all that's all it is.
Emotionally unavailable king. With a really, really bad haircut in this one.
Really rough. It's terrible.
During those scary flashbacks to his childhood and like seeing someone he loves get murdered by a creature, did you get any like Nope vibes?
A little bit. Just a little bit. I see what you're getting at.
That's another one, Preston, that like this movie has some weird amount of foundation that is explored much, much better and in a much more interesting and fun and engaging way in the movie.
Yeah, it actually,
including the emotionally distant father.
It does have that. I see what you're saying. Like it does feel like Nope saw this movie and went, that's interesting. What if we made that, but it was good?
Yeah.
End of question.
And it almost hits the same beats. It even has the sun like rising above the fear. And wow, yeah.
Wow, is
but it's very
Nope
good.
Just after
it's very,
Earth?
very good movie. Before Earth is what it's called.
It's the weirdest series. It's Planet Earth, Before Earth, After Earth. I think that's such a weird call.
Yes.
But
and then Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Rise of the Planet of
and
the
then
Earth.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Kingdom of the Planet of the Earth. And then finally, Planet of the Earth.
Planet of the Earth.
Okay, we did it. we have successfully
so bad.
talked through this awful movie.
Are we doing it? We got.
Preston, I gotta say, you got the vibe exactly right for this
You
podcast.
nailed it.
Thank you very much.
You have achieved what I have yet to consider the unachievable, which is figuring out a good movie for this podcast.
I have found Nirvana.
John, you just have to choose a movie with too much money and too little direction. That's like our vibe.
Guess what? I have the perfect one for this week then.
This is the cinematic equivalent to walking down a sidewalk in autumn and stepping on leaves and none of them crunch under your foot.
That's way too good.
That's really
They all
solid.
just pathetically mush into the ground.
This is the cinematic equivalent of putting all the dishes in the dishwasher, putting the soap in, closing the thing, and then walking away and forgetting to do it, coming back a week later and going, son of a bitch.
This movie is the cinematic equivalent of going to the grocery store when it's busy and somehow having to make 3 or 4 laps all the way across the store because you forgot something in that one section.
Keep forgetting one thing. Oh yeah, that's very good. This is the cinematic equivalent to driving to someone's house and having no idea where their house is and trying to call that person, and they have no idea where you are, but they're just like trying to like get the vibe for like where you are, and so you're just like desperately trying to find common ground so you can get to this person's house.
This is the cinematic equivalent of finding out that time travel's real, and actually you go through it and then you go to the future and it's exactly like it is right now. Nothing has changed in 100 years.
This is the cinematic equivalent to getting invited to a party, showing up, and not only do you not know anyone there, but it's actually secretly like a religious ceremony.
This is the cinematic equivalent of going to a thrift store and finding a thing that you think might have treasure inside, and then you open it and it's just a bunch of mothballs.
This is the cinematic equivalent to being on an airplane and being a little bit nervous when the plane takes off and somebody that you've never met before who's a complete stranger reaches out and holds your hand.
This is the cinematic equivalent of dealing with any government agency where you have to bounce between like 4 different websites to sort of maybe hopefully end up where you thought you wanted to be.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And each one has a separate form.
Separate form, separate password.
That you have to fill out.
None of the passwords can be the same, and you forget all of them. So, John, what is the next movie that we're watching?
We did it.
Introduce us.
So I've gone on a real soul search because I'm determined to nail down our energy. And I think we each bring a specific energy to this podcast. That's what's important. I can't factor in trying to bring Preston's energy, and I can't factor in trying to bring Lincoln's energy. I need to bring John-ergy. So
Diesel power.
I need to be diesel powered. So last time I introduced you to a movie that is very aware of its shortcomings and makes fun of it and doesn't do a whole lot throughout the movie. So this week I have decided to force you guys to watch a movie that is so religiously unaware of its shortcomings and does so many fucking things through the movie that it's insane. So I am going to be making you guys watch Hellboy 2019. This is the remake of Hellboy, and this is the movie that when we started talking about this podcast, this is the one that made me genuinely go, yeah, we have to do this podcast, because I love this movie, not because it's good, but I do love it. We'll get into all that later. But that is your homework. You need to watch that movie. And your homework, I'm sending you guys a link here. Read the short story Hellboy in Mexico. And we'll talk about it. But I'll send you
I cannot believe there's a short story. This is the second short story we've been
This
assigned.
is like Lincoln's homework, but it's fun because it's a comic book.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for listening to Twinkie Talk. This has been a terrible movie watching cinematic punishment podcast brought to you by the Evening Brothers. I have been Brother Preston.
I have been Brother Lincoln. I could crash you from here.
And I have been Brother John. Use that shit, my dude.
Huzzah. We made it.
Huzzah. Goodbye, kids.